Welcome to the deep dive. It is Sunday, March 15th, 2026, and today we're taking on really the ultimate modern struggle, and I'm talking directly to you right now.
Yes, you.
Yeah, you know that stack of unread magazines on your coffee table that you keep meaning to get to, or like that swamped email inbox that just seems to regenerate the second you look away from the screen?
It's relentless.
It really is. You probably carry around this nagging, heavy feeling every single day that you're going to get caught up one of these days.
Well, I have to break a very hard truth to you right out of the gate. You are never going to catch up.
Ever.
No, it's just not going to happen.
Right. So today we're exploring the foundational psychology of time management, and we're drawing heavily from the core concepts in Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog. Our mission today is to figure out why the only way to save your sanity is to, fundamentally change your relationship with your to-do list.
Yeah. And it is a harsh reality to face, but it's deeply necessary if you want to stop feeling so overwhelmed. We hold on to this fantasy that if we just find the right calendar app, or if we just start waking up an hour earlier, we'll finally clear the deck.
Just one more productivity hack?
Exactly. But the reality of modern knowledge work is that no matter how many personal productivity techniques you master, there will always be more to do than you can ever accomplish in the time you have. I mean, the river of responsibilities, it just never stops flowing.
Okay, let's unpack this, because treating productivity like a matter of sheer speed is basically like running on a treadmill that someone else keeps speeding up.
Right.
You run faster, you get more efficient at knocking out emails, but the volume of tasks being thrown onto the belt is always going to exceed your capacity. If you just try to outrun it, you're just going to burn out.
Which is exactly why working faster is a trap.
Right.
The only way to get control of your time and really control of your life is to step off that treadmill completely.
Just walk away from it.
Yeah. Our mission for this deep dive is to shift your paradigm. We're going to explore how to stop doing some things entirely and how to identify and completely conquer the very few things that actually matter. It's a shift from efficiency to effectiveness.
And since working faster isn't the answer, we obviously have to change what we focus on. We have to change our daily diet, metaphorically speaking. Which brings us to the core philosophy of this whole approach: eating the frog.
Right. So the metaphor comes from an old saying that if the first thing you do each morning is eat a live frog, you can go through the rest of your day with the satisfaction of knowing that the worst is absolutely behind you.
The absolute worst.
Yeah, the worst. In this framework, your frog is your biggest, most important task. It's the one you're most likely to procrastinate on, but it's also the one that will have the greatest positive impact on your life and your results.
I have to admit, though, this feels so counterintuitive. When you look at a massive to-do list in the morning, there are always so many easy, quick things you can tick off.
Oh, sure.
Like replying to a quick Slack message or organizing a folder. Doing those things gives you a little hit of momentum. Voluntarily choosing to tackle the ugliest, most complex project first thing in the morning feels like going to the gym and immediately loading up the bar for the heaviest squats you can do.
Just right out of the gate.
Yeah, rather than doing some light stretching and a quick jog to warm up first.
It does feel daunting, I'll give you that. But there is a profound biological reason for doing the heavy squats or eating the frog first. When you focus on those tiny, easy tasks, you're essentially feeding your brain junk food.
Interesting.
You get a tiny dopamine hit, but it fades almost instantly, leaving you hungry for another easy distraction. But when you complete a major, complex task, your brain triggers a massive release of endorphins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it gives you a natural, sustained high. It makes you feel creative, confident, and, powerful.
So clearing out 50 unimportant emails doesn't actually give you that same chemical reward as finishing one major proposal?
Not at all. The neurochemical rush is directly proportional to the perceived importance and difficulty of the task. And here is the secret to highly successful people. You can actually develop a positive addiction to this specific endorphin rush.
A positive addiction.
Yes. By forcing yourself to eat the frog first, you're training your subconscious mind to crave success and contribution. You literally rewire your brain to become addicted to the feeling of doing things that matter, rather than the feeling of just being busy.
That makes a lot of sense. You're shifting your brain's reward system from cheap dopamine to high-value endorphins. And there are two golden rules for this diet. First, if you have to eat two frogs, eat the ugliest one first.
Meaning start with the hardest one.
Exactly. If you have two major high-impact tasks, always start with the absolute hardest one. And second, if you have to eat a live frog, it doesn't pay to sit and look at it for very long.
Because the longer you look at it, the bigger and uglier it gets in your mind.
It really does.
Anticipation breeds anxiety. You just have to launch directly into action.
So what does this all mean for our listener? Because knowing we need to eat the frog is great in theory, but when you're drowning in a sea of competing priorities, how do you actually identify which task is the frog?
It's tough.
I mean, every single project feels urgent when you're stressed out.
Right. You prevent that panic by moving from abstract dread to concrete planning. You have to do your thinking on paper before you ever touch a keyboard. It comes down to a ratio called the 10-90 rule.
The 10-90 rule.
Yeah, it states that the first 10% of the time you spend planning and organizing your work before you begin will save you as much as 90% of the time in getting the job done.
Wait, really? Just by writing it down? How does spending 10 minutes making a list save me 90 minutes of actual work?
Because it drastically reduces your cognitive load. Your brain is an incredible processor, but it is a terrible hard drive.
That's a great way to put it.
When you hold all your tasks in your head, you suffer from decision fatigue. You're constantly recalculating what to do next, which burns mental energy. By planning on paper, you map the route in advance. You avoid costly course corrections midway through the day.
Yeah, making it up as you go is exhausting.
It is. Only about 3% of adults have clear, written goals. To join that top tier, you use the ABCDE method on your daily list. You assign a letter to every single task before you start.
Okay, break that down for me.
So A stands for tasks you absolutely must do. These are tasks with serious consequences if you fail to do them.
Like a financial report your boss needs for a board meeting.
Exactly. Or a major client pitch. These are your frogs. If you have multiple, you prioritize them by labeling them A1, A2, A3. A1 is the ugliest frog of all.
Got it. And the B tasks.
B tasks are things you should do, but they only have mild consequences. Someone might be annoyed if you don't return their voicemail, but it's not going to derail your career. These are the tadpoles.
I love that. Tadpoles. But let me push back here for a second. What if my boss hands me a B task, a tadpole, and demands it gets done right now? How do I prioritize my A1 frog when someone else, someone who literally controls my paycheck, is dictating my immediate focus?
That is a very real challenge, and it comes down to managing expectations and communicating consequences. When leadership hands you a tadpole, you don't just refuse it.
Right, that would be bad.
Very bad. Instead, you present your list. You say, I am currently working on the A1 board report, which has massive consequences for tomorrow's meeting. I can switch to this new task, but it means the A1 report will be delayed, which is the higher priority for the company.
So that's smart.
So 9 times out of 10, they'll realize they handed you a tadpole and tell you to stay focused on the frog.
That is a brilliant way to handle it. You aren't saying no, you're just making the opportunity cost visible to them.
Precisely. And the golden rule of this entire prioritization system is this: you must never do a B task when there's an A task left undone. Never get distracted by a tadpole when a massive frog is sitting right there.
And to round out the rest of the alphabet, C is for tasks that are nice to do, like having coffee with a coworker. 0 professional consequences if you skip it.
Yeah.
D is for delegate, meaning anything someone else can do, you pass it off so you have time for your A tasks. And E is for eliminate, things you just do out of habit that don't matter anymore.
What's fascinating here is how this categorization method connects to a famous 50-year study conducted by Dr. Edward Banfield at Harvard University.
Oh, the upward mobility study.
Yes. He looked for the single most accurate predictor of upward social and economic mobility. He wanted to know why some people continually rise while others just stagnate. It wasn't their background or their education or even their IQ. It was their long-time perspective.
Long-time perspective, meaning they're constantly looking at the horizon.
Yes. Highly successful people think 5, 10, 20 years out.
Yeah.
They evaluate their choices in the present to ensure they align with that long-term future. Future intent determines present actions. An A task is an A task precisely because it carries long-term consequences. By forcing yourself to evaluate the consequences of a task, the true frogs reveal themselves instantly.
But even if you use the ABCDE method and you look at the long-term consequences, a lot of us are still going to end up with a list that has way too many A and B tasks. I mean, we've categorized them, but there are still more frogs than there are hours in a day.
That is where the Pareto principle comes into play, commonly known as the 80-20 rule. It dictates that 20% of your activities will account for 80% of your results.
So focus on the 20%.
Exactly. Out of 10 tasks on your list, 2 will be worth vastly more than the other 8 combined. Because there is never enough time to do everything, you have to obey the law of forced efficiency.
Which means there's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do the most important thing.
Exactly. The constraint of time forces you to become efficient at choosing. And to do that, you have to practice creative procrastination.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Wait, so you're saying I have to procrastinate? That feels like a trap.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
Everything else we've talked about is about overcoming procrastination, beating the urge to delay. Now you're telling me to do it on purpose.
It sounds like a paradox, but you have to distinguish between unconscious procrastination and creative procrastination. Most people procrastinate unconsciously. They avoid the big, hard, valuable tasks out of fear or a desire for comfort.
Right, they're procrastinating on their frogs.
Exactly. Creative procrastination, on the other hand, is a deliberate strategic choice to put off low-value activities.
So instead of passively avoiding a task out of fear, I'm actively making a strategic choice to shelve it. I'm taking the power back.
You hit the nail on the head. Since you cannot do everything, you must consciously decide to procrastinate on the 80% of tasks that yield the least results. You have to set posteriorities.
Posteriorities. I like that word.
We all know what priorities are: things you do more of and sooner. A posteriority is what you do less of and later, if at all.
Getting in requires getting out. Saying no to the trivial many is the only way you free up time and mental space for the vital few.
Consider a busy executive trying to balance a rapidly growing business and a family. His life was highly stressful, and he felt like he was failing at both.
A familiar story for a lot of people.
Yes. When he analyzed his time, he realized his key constraint was a habit from before he was married. He played golf 3 to 4 times a week for several hours at a time.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of time.
It is. He had to creatively procrastinate on his golf games, abandoning most of them entirely to save his family life and his business. You have to be ruthless about abandoning your own versions of those golf games. You have to abandon the tadpoles.
Okay, so let's say the listener has done the work. They've thought on paper. They've used the ABCDE method to isolate their A1 frog. They've set their posteriorities and creatively procrastinated the tadpoles. They sit down at their clean desk to work, and they completely freeze.
Happens all the time.
The task is just so massive, so complex, that they stall out at the starting line. The dread creeps back in. How do we bypass that psychological overwhelm?
We freeze because our brains look at a massive task and perceive a lack of immediate, actionable progress. The brain sees a huge expenditure of energy with no guaranteed reward in sight, so it pumps the brakes. It feels impossible.
It's a survival mechanism.
Right. To overcome this, there is a brilliant historical anecdote about crossing the Sahara Desert that perfectly illustrates the solution.
Oh, the Tenezeraf crossing. This is such a vivid image.
It really is. The Tenezeraf is a brutal stretch of the Sahara Desert in Algeria. It is 500 miles wide. No water, no food, no grass, just a completely flat, unforgiving wasteland.
Sounds terrifying.
It was. Over 1,300 people had perished trying to cross it in previous years because drifting sands would cover the track and travelers would get completely turned around and lost.
Just a 500-mile flat, yellow parking lot of sand. If you look at the horizon, there is nothing but more sand. It's the ultimate overwhelming task.
Exactly. To solve this, the French marked the track with black 55-gallon oil drums, and they placed them exactly 5 kilometers apart. Now, why 5 kilometers? Because that is the exact curvature of the Earth.
Meaning that as soon as you reach one, the next one pops up over the horizon.
Exactly. What it meant was that wherever you were on that 500-mile deadly journey, you only ever needed to see 2 barrels, the one you had just passed and the one 5 kilometers ahead.
Wow.
You didn't need to see the entire 500-mile route. You didn't need to worry about the end. You just steered for the next barrel. You take life and massive tasks, 1 oil barrel at a time. You only need to go as far as you can see, and once you get there, you'll be able to see far enough to go further.
That imagery is so powerful. You don't write a 300-page book, you just write the next paragraph.
Yes.
You steer for the next barrel. And it connects perfectly to 2 other methods, the salami slice and the Swiss cheese method.
Yes, those are great techniques.
If someone hands you a massive roll of salami, you don't try to unhinge your jaw and eat the whole thing at once. You cut it into thin slices. If a task is too dense, you don't swallow it whole. You just cut off one tiny, actionable slice.
Or, if you use the Swiss cheese method, you resolve to work on the massive project for just 5 or 10 minutes, simply to punch a hole in it. You commit to time rather than a specific milestone.
And both of these methods bypass that psychological freeze because they lower the barrier to entry. But why does just taking that one tiny slice work so well to keep us going?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this taps into a psychological phenomenon known as the Zygarnik effect.
The Zygarnik effect.
Yes. Humans have a deep subconscious need to bring finality to a project. Unfinished tasks create a sort of cognitive tension. It's the same reason a catchy song gets stuck in your head until you listen to the end of it. By punching that hole or eating that single slice of salami, you trigger a compulsion to closure.
Because once we start a slice, our brain inherently wants to finish the roll. We hate open loops.
We do. Taking that first tiny step, steering toward that very first oil barrel, activates that inner drive. You are generating forward momentum to break the initial inertia.
So once you've taken that first step and you've fought hard to build that momentum, how do you ensure you don't lose it? How do you stop yourself from checking your phone, looking at a tadpole, and letting the momentum die?
This is where the discipline of single handling becomes paramount. Single handling means that once you begin your most important task, your A1 frog, you refuse to turn aside or stop until the job is 100% complete.
Total focus.
Total focus. Starting and stopping a task, picking it up, putting it down, trying to remember where you left off, can increase the time necessary to complete it by a staggering 500%.
500%. That is an unbelievable tax on your time. It's like driving in stop-and-go city traffic versus cruising on an open highway.
That's a perfect analogy.
In the city, you are constantly braking, idling at red lights, and then accelerating again. It burns through your gas incredibly fast, and it takes forever to get anywhere. Single handling is taking the on-ramp to the highway and just cruising at a steady speed.
And if we carry that traffic analogy further, your brain's gas is glucose. Every time you switch context from your project to an email and back to your project, you force your brain to offload one set of rules and load up a completely new set.
And that takes energy.
It takes a lot of energy. This cognitive switching burns massive amounts of glucose, leaving you exhausted.
Right.
When you single handle on the highway, you preserve that fuel. You eventually enter that highly productive mental state we call flow.
Flow state.
It's a state where your mind feels clear, your work feels effortless, and your intuition is highly accurate. Is the highest human state of performance.
But the world is full of distractions. Even if I want to stay on the highway, my phone is constantly trying to pull me over. How do you protect that flow state?
You develop a manufactured sense of urgency. You create an internal mantra. Whenever you feel yourself slowing down or you feel the urge to check a notification or chat with a coworker, you repeat to yourself, do it now. Back to work. Back to work.
You essentially race against yourself.
Exactly. When you look closely at persistence, it's really just self-discipline in action. Single handling is the true test of your character and willpower. You have to aggressively protect your focus.
Wow. Okay, let's bring all of this together. We have covered some serious ground today. We've learned that the idea of catching up is a complete myth.
A total myth.
The treadmill is never going to stop. To actually take control of your time, you have to shift your focus from easy dopamine to high-value endorphins by identifying your biggest, ugliest frog.
Right.
You use the 10-90 rule in the ABCDE method to sort those frogs from the tadpoles. You practice creative procrastination to ruthlessly eliminate the low-value tasks. And when you face a massive project, you bypass your brain's defense mechanisms by tackling it one oil barrel at a time, single-handling the work until you reach that state of flow.
And the beauty of this framework is that you can put it into practice immediately. Not next week, not tomorrow morning, but tonight. Sit down tonight and do your thinking on paper. Clean your desk, lay out your materials, write down your tasks, and identify your A1 frog. Tomorrow morning, before you check a single email, before you look at a single notification, sit down and eat that frog.
It's all about taking that very first action.
This raises an important question, though. We've spent this entire time talking about projects and tasks, but how broad is the definition of a frog?
Right, and that leads perfectly into a final, incredibly powerful thought for you to take away today. We often think of our to-do list purely in terms of our current job reports, emails, and meetings, but your earning ability is actually your most valuable financial asset, and continuous learning is the absolute minimum requirement for success in any field today.
Absolutely.
So, before we sign off, I want you to think about this. What if the biggest, most impactful frog you've been avoiding isn't a spreadsheet or a project for your boss at all? What if your true A1 frog is a fundamental skill? A new language, a technical certification, or a completely new area of knowledge you've been putting off learning? Mastering that single skill could completely redefine your earning ability and radically alter your life's trajectory for the next 10 years. Ask yourself honestly, are you just procrastinating on your daily chores, or are you actually procrastinating on your own potential?
That is the ultimate frog to identify, the one that changes who you become.
It really is. Remember, that treadmill is never going to stop speeding up, but you don't have to keep running yourself into the ground trying to clear the trivial many. Step off the treadmill, find your A1 task. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Now go out there and eat that frog.